All right. Let me do a quick audio check, see how everything's sounding, and then I'll start talking about the topic at hand, the ninth generation. Let's see. Can everybody hear me? Yes. No. Let me go to my phone. Hey, chat, can you guys hear me? How we sounding out there? We sound good? Shout out to everybody that's currently in the chat right now. Shout out to DMY9, Jerhin, Stamps, Daniel Alvarez, Jazzy, of course. Shout out to you, Game Inspection, and Marshmallow. Give it a couple more minutes before I dive into it. Yo, what's up, Nico? They're saying my volume's low. Let me see if I can do something about that. How we sounding now with the audio? Is that any better? Shout out to Wonton. Give it a couple more minutes. Give about 3 more minutes and then I'll jump into it. But yeah, this isn't gonna be a video that I keep up on the channel. I'm kind of in my Nintendo bag right now, so it'll probably stay up for about a week or so, and then I'll either put it unlisted or, I'll just take it off the channel completely. Sounding better? That's good. Let me go pass out this link and then we'll jump right into it. And if you have anything you would like to add on to the conversation, whether or not you agree or you disagree, I'm going to be in the Weapon Wheel Discord. So if you have something you want to add to the conversation, just come on through and we'll discuss this topic. About 2 more minutes. How y'all doing today, though? Feeling great. Finally did this whole reorganizing of my room, painted the walls, ordered a whole new bed, just reorganized everything so it's looking really spiffy, if I do say so myself. Go to Jack, move Johnny. Okay. All right. What's up, Dre? What's up, Guero, Shelly? Got 1 more minute and then I'm gonna go live. It's not a whole lot for me. That's actually a pretty decent amount of people for me. 21 people. Typically, I only have like 10 or so. I'm not a streamer by any means. I'm a ex YouTuber that wants to get back into it, but I just don't have the time like I used to. All right. So let's talk about it, right? The ninth generation of gaming. This is something we've been discussing quite a bit on Weapon Wheel Podcast within the past year or so, just how we feel about the ninth generation. And BG thinks it's a good generation. Me, Jack, Bond, We feel like it's been underwhelming. Me personally, I feel like it's been a waste of a generation. But okay, BG. But this is something people have been asking me on, because a couple years ago I made a video called "Why I Don't Like the Seventh Generation of Gaming," and to me, I just felt like that was a weird reset in gaming. Like a lot of the genres that were popular back in the day. Hold on, they're saying my audio is very low. Let me see. BG. Wait, how we sound in chat? Because I feel like my audio should be good, but you guys are saying it's low. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit more. I don't want to start peaking or anything. Shout out to Kryptonite and BG, one of my biggest detractors in life. But yeah, it was actually, let me mod up BG real quick before I go into this. Yeah. Let's do that. All right. Because like I was saying, like a couple years ago, I made a video called "Why I Don't Like the Seventh Generation of Gaming." And it wasn't just like from a software standpoint. There really isn't a whole lot there that I would want to go back to play. Like, shout out to Jack Move Johnny, but he made a post on Twitter a couple days ago saying, what are a couple games you would recommend for the PlayStation 3? Because he's been going back and playing a couple games for the PS3. And I really had nothing for him. I felt kind of bad, There's just not a whole lot for me in that generation. If you guys love it, I would completely understand why. But that video was a couple years ago, and now that I'm kind of just sitting back thinking on it, and I kind of have a less emotional attachment to it, I'm able to sit back and see, what that generation of gaming was able to do to move gaming forward. That was the digital age of gaming, so we had a lot more indie games hit the scene. We also had it became possible to buy full retail releases during that time. And it also became possible to buy a lot of legacy content. That was one of the main things they were selling when Nintendo announced the Project Revolution, how you would just be able to have all these consoles into one home console with the Wii. So that was cool. It was also the HD generation, so that was another push for the medium. We lost memory cards in that generation. Not only did we lose that, that was also the generation for like Wi-Fi, online gaming, really hit a boom. So there was a lot of stuff with that generation that, it was positive, even if the industry did do things to try to, damage what DLC could be. On paper, DLC isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you get the wrong publishers and developers behind it, and all of a sudden it just becomes, like a negative thing for a video game. So if I'm able to put aside my, personal feelings as far as the software, seventh generation probably isn't too bad. It's a generation I refuse to go back to outside of like the Nintendo DS, but for like an entire generation, I'm not really too fond of that generation. But people have been asking me, what do I think about this generation? Because if I dislike that generation, there's no way I can think this generation is good, because we really haven't done anything about 4 years into it. And I to be honest with you, I kind of have to agree with them. I feel like this has just been a complete waste of a generation. Like it got to a point where everything just kind of feels safe in a way. Like Iwata warned people going into the seventh generation that, game budgets would start to become out of control, that a lot of developers would start losing their jobs, a lot of studios would begin shutting down, and that it would limit creativity in the gaming space. And he wasn't wrong, because in the seventh generation, we did lose a lot of developers. It just probably wasn't a lot of the developers you guys care about, like the original Tony Hawk developers. We lost Neversoft, we lost Hudson Soft. I think we even lost like Black Box, the developers behind like Split Second and a couple other developers. But I feel like the seventh generation was like the last generation to where creativity, I don't want to say it was at its height, but it was like the last straw for like AAA gaming. And I feel like AAA gaming has went downhill ever since then. Like, look at a lot of your favorite publishers and developers now. How many of them can you honestly say that what they're making now is better than what they were making in the past. Look at the discussions surrounding the developers like Bethesda. Is Bethesda better now than what they were doing on the Xbox 360? Not only them, the developers behind Mass Effect, the developer Rocksteady. Rocksteady single-handedly got people to believe that, licensed games and superhero games could be good. Can't really say that too much now with what they're doing currently with Suicide Squad. And it's just like a lot of them. Like even Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed was a really cool game in the past. It was just a really great marquee franchise for Ubisoft back in the day. Even me, somebody that typically doesn't care for their games nowadays, even I can say that I did enjoy what used to be the Ezio series with Assassin's Creed. But this generation overall, it just feels like we're going backwards. It feels like this is the generation of playing it safe and just doing what they know makes money. Like we got Persona 3 just came out. This is like the generation of remakes too. Like people are giving props to Konami for doing Metal Gear Solid 3 again, Silent Hill 2 again, Persona 3. I heard Atlas is even trying to remake Persona 4. We had Dead Space. We had all types of remakes and remasters coming out this generation. And it doesn't even feel like if this generation was to end right now, what would you be able to say has been the standout game from this generation? You really wouldn't be able to say much. Like the only game that you might be able to say is like a PS4 game, like a game that you didn't need a next generation console to buy. Shout out to the Melodic Punk and shout out to the super chat that I just got a couple minutes ago. Y'all corny. Home base supporting black business, $2. Appreciate it. Don't really get a lot of super chats around here. Hold on. Go get a thing of water real quick. Be right back. I am back. Sorry about that. I don't even, to be honest with you, I really don't even know how I want to like discuss this generation. Like if I were to just break it down by platforms and talk, let's just start with Microsoft, okay? Microsoft, one sec. Back to Microsoft. Sorry about that again. But Microsoft, to me, they seem like they really have. Yeah, shout out to my guy Zobi70 in the chat. Microsoft to me feels like they don't even know what they're doing in the industry. You know, like whenever you look at games Microsoft makes, none of them really feel like, one, they don't feel like event titles, and two, it feels like they're just making games just to make games. You know, like when you look over at Nintendo has a clear understanding of what, of what their audience is into. They understand that, okay, Nintendo fans, they're really big into Japanese games. They're really big into, RPGs, platformers, fighting games. So we're going to make games that have a very certain look to them. We're going to have a lot of games that tap in to like what Nintendo fans are into. And even if Nintendo fans typically don't care for a certain genre like shooters, we can still find a way to make a shooter that's appealing to Nintendo fans with a game like Splatoon or something. Microsoft, on the other hand, we all know that their fan base would be more into the games that PlayStation would make, like the modern day AAA PlayStation. But whenever I look at what Microsoft is doing, it seems like they're just doing things just to do things. Shout out to the super chat. It says from Chrono Rig, we got $5. Do you think games like Fortnite pretty much steered the industry that way? Not really. No, I can't blame Fortnite for that. Yeah, but Microsoft, their identity is like grown men, like dude bro gamers, people that are into shooters, that are into high-end graphics, people that are into violence and blood and gore and sex and things like that, but none of their games really translate to that. And I feel like shout out to Zobi in the chat with the $5. He's I feel like Microsoft games don't translate to that, you know? I feel like Microsoft games, well, I gotta put the blame on the fan base, right? I know it's not fair to blame them, but at the same time, you kind of have to blame them for some of the things that are happening within that industry. Because to me, it doesn't seem like they've been honest with Microsoft for like a very long time. Like they've been having Phil Spencer and Microsoft go on this goose egg chase for developers like Square Enix to come to the platform, more support from Sega, more support from Capcom, when historically that has never been their bread and butter. I remember when Capcom had their fiscal year for 2018-2019, they had releases like Monster Hunter World, they had, I think it was like Resident Evil 2 Remake, they had Devil May Cry, and they said that the Xbox was like at the very bottom for platform support for them. Number one, I think it was either PC or PS4. Number two was either PC or PS4. Number three was the Nintendo Switch, and at the very bottom was the Xbox. And now, if you know anything about year one with the Nintendo Switch, it came out in 2017. They really only had like HD ports from Capcom. It was at a point where Nintendo fans were kind of upset with Capcom at the time. All they were really getting was, you know, Okami HD, Street Fighter 2, you know, Mega Man 11, and things like that. You know, the Mega Man Legacy Collection. And even with just like old games, Devil May Cry 2, they still were able to support Capcom in a way, in a more significant way than, you know, Xbox gamers. And they didn't even have Capcom's most popular game of all time with Monster Hunter Worlds. Yeah, the Capcom leak showed that Capcom games don't sell. They said that Phoenix Wright only sold 5,000 copies on the platform. And then they also said that games like Ace Attorney and Mega Man Battle Network not coming to the Xbox was a business decision because they didn't care about their games. And I feel like the Xbox fans have essentially been trying to convince everybody else that they love every game, when we all know that's not true. And I feel like they're sending Phil Spencer out there to Japan to get these weird games like, I won't say weird for them. Games like Octopath Travelers, Dragon Quest Builders, you know, Star Ocean 6. Games just because they don't want PlayStation to have them. And look, it's fine, but at the same time, that's not what you guys are here for. I don't know why they're so focused on trying to have the PlayStation experience over there on the Xbox. And again, it's not even a matter of them liking Square Enix. It's more so, it comes across as them just not wanting PlayStation to have Square Enix exclusive titles. Because word just came out this past week that Nintendo had more Square Enix exclusive games, but nobody seemed to care about that. It was only PlayStation games. And look at the games that they had. You know, Forspoken, Valkyrie Elysium, Foam Stars. Sorry, Jazzy, Foam Stars. What was the other game? Babylon's Falls. Like, there's not a lot of good Square Enix exclusives over there on the PlayStation for you to be upset about this. Instead of worrying about developers and publishers that you don't care about, why don't you just ask like Microsoft, okay, when are we going to start getting games that cater to us? You know, like last generation, we had, you know, Sunset Overdrive. That's not really our type of thing. We had games like Recore, again, not really their type of thing. Voodoo Vince, aka Doodoo Vince, not really their type of thing. Even this current generation, whenever you talk to them about games that are on Game Pass, Psychonauts 2, well, to be honest with you, bro, I don't really care about 3D platformers post the Nintendo 64. Okay. Pentiment, I'm not really trying to do all that reading. Flight Simulator, you know, it's not really my type of thing, but I mean, it has a good Metacritic score. You know, what else did they get? Hi-Fi Rush. You know, I mean, you know, it's cool, but I'm not really big into rhythm games and things like that. Okay, then what are you into? When are we gonna start asking Phil Spencer for games that cater to that audience? And again, I'm not saying you have to enjoy those things. It makes sense for them to not enjoy those things. Microsoft came in the gaming industry as the adult platform. So instead of wasting energy trying to get the Japanese experience over there on the Xbox, look, it's fine. Nintendo fans aren't into the Western side of gaming in general. They tried that with the Wii U. It failed. They tried it with the Batmans, the Call of Duties. They tried it with the Need for Speeds, the NBA 2Ks, the Maddens, all the Mass Effects, the Crysis. Nintendo fans typically didn't care because they've been conditioned to want Japanese games, just like Xbox fans have been conditioned to want Western games with a bigger AAA budget, but I feel like Microsoft just is not doing that. They tout power, power, power. And then they launch like the Xbox One X with Super Lucky's Tales and Zoo Tycoon. They launched the Series X with absolutely nothing. If you did not have an Xbox this entire generation, I'm saying this as somebody that owns the Series X, you have missed out on absolutely nothing. Maybe Starfield. I'm not a big Bethesda fan in general, even at their height in the 7th generation with Fallout 3, New Vegas, and Skyrim, Oblivion as well. Just not a big fan of it altogether. But at the same time, Starfield would probably be the only one that you missed out on. And look, not liking Japanese games is fine. I feel like they just need to have, like, between the CEOs, the Phil Spencers, the Sarah Bonds, the fan base, they just need to sit down together and just say, what do you want? We want Star. No. Don't look over there at PlayStation. Nintendo has the better Square Enix games anyway. Let the PlayStation fans have Foam Stars, okay? What do you want as an Xbox fan? When was the last time anybody asked them that? Instead of just, running around screaming over Banjo-Kazooie that they're not going to buy, instead of running around screaming over Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon, when has anybody asked themselves, like, do the Xbox fans actually want out of this console? Why is Microsoft pushing, like, technology and power and strength, but has absolutely nothing to show for it? I couldn't believe what I was seeing when Hi-Fi Rush was coming out. Man, this looks like a PS2 game, bro. Yo, my God, man, this looks like a Dreamcast game. That used to be the biggest insult in gaming. When have you ever heard somebody say this looks like a PS2 game in an endearing light? Not only that, again, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta. These were not games that even sold all that well on the Xbox, but you expect me to believe that some type of Ben 10, what's that other show? A Generator Rex looking hack and slash rhythm game is what they're into? I just think that fan base needs to really be honest about what they want moving forward from Microsoft. And I feel like that has, translated into the output because they're just making a bunch of random games that make absolutely no sense. When was the last time Microsoft had an event game where everybody just stops what they're doing? Right now, we're all on this game. Right now, we're all on Tears of the Kingdom. Right now, despite how I feel about the series, right now, we're all on God of War. They just release a bunch of games that don't even cater to the audience. Right now, we're not all on Hi-Fi Rush. When I saw that game and I asked Kid Smooth and Gaming Addict, okay, you don't like hack and slashers typically, why this one? The ones that Nintendo fans dropped Fire Emblem to go play. Why this one? This one doesn't even make sense for you to like. So yeah, if I was to give Microsoft a grade at this point in the generation, I give them a big fat F. They have done absolutely nothing. I will say this is the generation to where, their biggest criticism ever since they've been in the gaming industry essentially has been they've really only had like Halo, Gears, and Forza. This is the generation to where they try to push for variety, but at the end of the day, what good is variety if you don't want said variety? like I said, variety makes sense with Nintendo. You see a platformer, everything there just looks uniform. Their JRPGs look uniform. Their platforms look uniform. Their platformers look uniform. Their rhythm games look uniform. Their strategy games, their fighting games, their racing games, their sports games, everything there looks like Nintendo games, which is why the audience goes out there and supports the games. The only ones that kind of look off base from what Nintendo typically does is like Metroid and Bayonetta. Bayonetta isn't even first party, but you get my point. And the games suffer because of that. But at the end of the day, you know, Nintendo knows how to cater to that audience. And I feel like Microsoft, to me, comes across like the Wii U, right? Throughout the entire Wii generation, Nintendo wasn't taken seriously, despite being the best-selling console of that generation. You know, Nintendo was just kind of like an afterthought, you know. Well, Nintendo's not like, imagine being in that generation and telling somebody that your main console is the Wii. You would get destroyed. And especially in that generation where there really was no filter, people would legitimately just say what was on their mind without any repercussion or thought at that time. You would get destroyed for saying that the Wii was your favorite platform of that generation. So that's why going into the Wii, Nintendo wanted to be taken more seriously. So they were, you know, they kind of dropped the Japanese games at that time because Japanese games weren't cool. There's a reason that Japanese games at that point in time tried to go for more of a Western style approach. All the Capcom games we got prior were just kind of gone in favor of games like Lost Planet, games like, what's that one game? Binary Domain. When Sega made a Yakuza game, but Yakuza wasn't selling in the States, so they decided to make a Yakuza zombie game. It was just like a bunch of weird, Dead Rising, just a bunch of games that didn't really cater to that audience, so they kind of took a step back, and then the following generation got back to being Japanese. Nintendo tried to cater to the hardcore audience because they were tired of just being looked at as an afterthought in gaming. So they went after the Batmans, the Maddens, the Mass Effect 3, the Crysis 3s, Call of Duty, NBA 2K, Need for Speed. Nobody cared. Not a single person cared. They still went out. Yeah, Zombie U. Nobody cared. They wanted their first party Nintendo experience, and that was it. They wanted the Japanese experience, which was missing from the Wii U. None of that was there. The only the third party Japanese developers that we had was like Platinum Games and Sega. And I feel like Microsoft is in that boat as well. Trying to get the JRPG guys, trying to get the Nintendo fans, but it's just not going to work. Congratulations, you have marketing rights for Visions of Mana. You have marketing rights for the new Atlas game. But here's the kicker. It's a multi-plat. You're not going to get people on your platform with multi-plats. Now, if you had games like another Lost Odyssey game, another partnership with a game like Blue Dragon, another game like Scalebound, another game like Sunset Overdrive, you might be able to pull in more people with games like that, but trying to sell people on multi-plats that they can already play on their main platform is just not going to work. Terrible. And the thing is, I really can't even get rid of my Series X at this point because nobody wants to buy it. I tried to sell it on Twitter, and some guy with a Sonic avatar, of all people, wanted to buy it, but he dropped out at the last second. So again, Microsoft, I'm giving them an F. They really didn't do anything this entire generation. If this generation was to end right now, you would be able to say absolutely nothing about what the Xbox has accomplished. I don't know how you can release a console with no next generation games or exclusives. At least with the Switch, we had something like Tears of the Kingdom. Even if it did come out on the Wii U, you didn't play it on the Wii U, stop it. We had something like Tears of the Kingdom coming out. There was something else I wanted to say about Microsoft too before I headed out. Oh yeah, I just feel like the audience just needs to be more responsible and just honest with to be honest with you, it's kind of over at this point with them. You know? I mean, the writing's on the wall. I think they've kind of missed their opportunity. But if we just had a generation to where the audience was honest with what Microsoft wanted, I feel like things could have been a whole lot better. But instead, they insist on fighting Square Enix on Twitter, fighting with Japanese developers because they don't want to put their games on the Xbox, saying, well, come on, man, it takes generations to cultivate, and you don't have generations left. By the day, you guys are becoming more transparent. I can see straight through all of you guys. Also, I think you meant Breath of the Wild and not Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, I did mean Breath of the Wild. Shout out to Game Inspection. Misspoke. Yeah, you guys don't have years left. And especially in the position that Microsoft is in, you would think that Microsoft would be doing everything they can do to be getting into good graces with just gamers in general. Now I'm hearing they want to shut down the physical media department. Not only that, Microsoft was the main ones talking about, preserving video games and all this, that, and the third. Now they want to shut down physical media. Horrible. Let me go check out these super chats before we talk about PlayStation. Shout out to all the viewers in the chat, by the way. I really appreciate all you guys coming through. Let's see. Stopped it. Zobi. Emmanuel A1 with the $3. Blandrew, please stop the Xbox slander, sir. Emmanuel, come on, man. What has Microsoft done for you? Hellblade? You know what? I'll be honest with you. Hellblade is something that makes sense. It's a graphical showpiece. It's violent. It's dark. That's something I can understand. That's something that makes sense for you guys. Even if you did trash it when it was a PlayStation exclusive back in 2017, I didn't forget. That does make sense under the umbrella of somebody like Microsoft. Mook Gaming with the $5. No super chat message or anything, but I appreciate the donation. Let's see. Juice Man Vaughn, shout out to Juice Man with the $5. Showing love. Appreciate it. I can feel the love all the way over here. Jazzy Jefferson with the $10. Remember how Xbox guys reacted with Scarlet Nexus not being on Game Pass at first? Yes, I do. And that's another thing. Game Pass was supposed to be like a service to where we believed it was supposed to be a service to where, creativity could continue to exist. They were able to pump out these games because output was more important than being an event title. That doesn't seem to be happening nowadays. That Microsoft just confirmed that they want games with impact. They want games that are going to do something within their ecosystem. Respectfully, Psychonauts 2, Ori and the Blind Forest, what else? Pentiment, Bleeding Edge. They're not really going to move the needle for Microsoft. And even, I just heard today that they got Call of Duty exclusive not exclusive, but Call of Duty is going to be going to Game Pass. Let me ask the chat, do you guys think Call of Duty and Game Pass is going to do anything for like the Xbox brand? Is that really going to move units, or do you think people just don't care in general? I think people are perfectly fine paying for their video games. It's just a matter of if the game is good or not. Shout out to Nico730. I thought you used to be 720, but maybe I'm just misremembering. With the $5. I traded my Xbox Series S in and went to get a massage with the $100. Let's see. Riku-san, shout out to you. Emmanuel A1, Tunic wasn't creative. Tunic was creative. But at the same time, who's buying an Xbox for Tunic? Yo, man, Tunic just came down, man. I gotta drop Zelda and go play that new Tunic, man. It's going down over there. No. Yo, man, I'm playing the new Last of Us game, but they just dropped Ori. No. Is Call of Duty? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's fair to say Call of Duty isn't relevant. Of course, it's relevant. It's always in like the top 3 best-selling games of the year, if not number 1. Let's see. Build It and the casuals will come. Psychonauts 2 was funded. Yeah. Again, it's commendable that Microsoft went out there during the Xbox One generation and bought a lot of struggling developers, like what do you call them? Like Obsidian, I believe they were struggling to get games out. Obsidian, Ninja Theory, who was the Double Fine. But what they're saying now kind of contradicts what Microsoft's plans are. If you bought all these studios that were struggling and, were on the brink of closure, and your whole goal now is to release guaranteed bangers that are going to make you guaranteed dollars, I don't know who all is safe from that. Like, let's really, okay, the 343 with Halo, they're safe. The Gears of War team, they're safe. Forza, they're safe. Really, it's just the Halo, Gears, and Forza team that I would feel, and Bethesda Softworks. Studios within Bethesda may get kicked, like we saw with Tango and Arcane, but Bethesda, the ones that make the Elder Scrolls and the Starfields and things of that such, they're safe. I don't even know if Obsidian is safe at this point. Pentiment didn't do anything. Well, no, they did Grounded. That's not fair. They did do Grounded, and I believe Grounded was a success. We'll see what happens with Avowed. But yeah, man, the best thing I can say about the Xbox Series X is that it plays Sonic Unleashed in 60 frames per second. So if that interests you and you're willing to spend $500 on the box to do so, go get you an Xbox Series X for that Sonic Unleashed. PlayStation. Let me know in the chat if you guys want to hear about Nintendo. I know Nintendo is technically part of this generation. Spoiler, I think Nintendo did an amazing job. This isn't just me being, more aligned with Nintendo. Typically, I think Nintendo just did a really good job. If you guys would like to hear my breakdown of Nintendo in the chat, let me know in the chat, and I'll do that after my PlayStation analysis. Now, PlayStation. Jim Ryan. PlayStation, they're in a kind of a slightly better situation than Xbox. PlayStation is kind of in a, how can I say this? PlayStation has the benefit of being like the default de facto console for gaming just in general. What do I mean by that? Like I said about Xbox and them having, statistics behind them saying that they don't support Japanese games or a lot of indie games this generation. PlayStation, no matter how bad, their Japanese support may be, no matter how bad a Western game may sell on a PlayStation, third parties are pretty much all in on PlayStation just with word of a new PlayStation console. Same with gamers too. Like if they just hear that PlayStation 6 is coming out, people are going to buy that. Microsoft and Nintendo, I feel like, have to do a much better job selling people at their console, whereas PlayStation can just release a new console and people for the most part would still flock to it without a whole lot of exclusive games. Am I wrong in saying that, chat? Am I wrong in saying that? My little analysis of that? Like if PlayStation didn't release a single exclusive for the remainder of this generation, I don't think that would hurt them too much. I think you really have to show like Nintendo fans, okay, we're going to be investing in a new console. We're going to be investing in a new console. We want to see a new Kirby game. We want to see a new Mario game. We want to see the next game from Monolith Soft. We want to see this, that, and the third. Microsoft. Okay, we need to show you guys a new game. We need to show you guys a new IP. We need to push graphics. We need to show you violence. We need to show you this, that, and the third. PlayStation, just have a decent price. Just change the name, something easy for the consumer to understand, and people would be out there posting themselves, on Twitter next to some haggardly woman saying about, yo, PS6 secured, dude, yo, man, I did it. Like, they're just too, they just got gamers by the balls to say, And I feel like that comes to the detriment of gamers in a way. I do. So let's talk about PlayStation. PlayStation, you know how I attacked Microsoft for variety and them essentially having variety, but it's a variety in a way that's packaged to where the Xbox consumer doesn't really care about, what's being presented to them. I feel like PlayStation is kind of in a point to where their first party games have become, this generation especially, have become homogenized in a way to where they understand what their audience is going to buy, but at the same time, you lose a lot of what made PlayStation great from the past, what helped build that brand. And for people like me, that's very unfortunate, you know, because even though games like The Last of Us and Uncharted and Horizon and things of that sort, Killzone and things like that were able to come out for PlayStation, I really didn't care too much about them because they did have games that catered more towards the classic PlayStation fan in me. Games like Puppeteer, games like Jak and Daxter, games like Wild Arms, Dark Cloud 1 and 2, Parappa the Rapper, Jammer Lammy, Loco Roco. So, it was just inoffensive in a way. But PlayStation is also in this same box where Microsoft is at, to where they now only want to chase guaranteed bangers. At least that's what it looks like to me. When Jim Ryan got inducted into office as, the new CEO of PlayStation, his thing was, all right, let's see how we can monetize. Let's see how we can get the max value out of our games. And unfortunately, games developed by like studios like Japan Studios just didn't qualify under his eyes. Which is strange because they shut down Japan Studios, I think it was like in the fall of 2020, and then by that summer they acquired Bluepoint. Now, for those of you that don't know, Bluepoint up to this point, they remastered or remade Demon Souls, a game Japan Studios was involved with. They remade Shadow of the Colossus, another Japan Studios game. They remastered Gravity Rush, took it off the PS Vita, and brought it to the console on the PS4, another Japan Studios title. Not only that, we haven't seen a next generation game from Bluepoint outside of Demon Souls, but people are even saying they want them to remake The Legend of Dragoon, another Japan Studios title. So at this point, it's kind of like, okay, you had the original minds behind these games, right? You had the developers of Shadow of the Colossus, the developers of, Parappa the Rapper, the developers of Gravity Rush. But you're going to fire the original talent behind those games and then hire the people that, I won't say plagiarize, but just redid the homework. Does that make sense to anybody? You're going to hire... Yeah, we lost a lot with the PlayStation 5. Yeah, okay. Of course you think it makes sense, BG. We lost a lot with the PS5. And the PS5 is also a console to where if you didn't upgrade from the PS4 to the PS5, you really didn't miss out on anything. The only games you would have missed out on so far, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, cool. I don't really have too many complaints about it. Remake, terrible. Rebirth, better. Ratchet and Clank, and as somebody that loves the original era of Ratchet and Clank, this Ratchet and Clank really isn't much different from what we've been doing for like the past 20 years now. To be honest with you, it's kind of gotten worse in a lot of aspects. I used to enjoy going from planet to planet, seeing all the different life forms, seeing how just like funny they were, the different dialogue options they had, the cool music to go along with the worlds, and things like that with Ratchet and Clank. It's just not what it used to be. But if you're into that, sure. Ratchet and Clank, Returnal, another studio that was on the brink of destruction. Indie games, despite being the de facto platform for indie games, because the Wii U just wasn't selling in the Xbox, they kind of lost their indie focus after Xbox Live Arcade on the Xbox 360. They said, basically, if Returnal didn't do what it did, that studio would have flopped. Luckily, I guess it did do $1 million or something at $70, so I guess they're still around. But PlayStation, they're kind of just lucky that that Japan doesn't support the Switch in the way that they probably should. And they're lucky that Square Enix does a lot of carrying for that console. Like, if you remove Square Enix from the PlayStation 5, right? What does the PlayStation 5 look like? Persona? No. I mean, Xbox has that now. And what's crazy is Xbox has deals with Sega to do to get those games in Game Pass with RE Fantasy and Persona and Yakuza and things like that. The PS5 really is just another product that you could pass on. They raised the price of PSN this generation, offering you absolutely nothing within that $20. Typically, if you raise the price of, gaming, of a service or something, you would think that they're going to offer something in return of that. They didn't do absolutely anything with that. And that's another thing. I feel like PlayStation to me, I know a lot of my Nintendo guys will probably disagree, but a lot of, I won't even say first party PlayStation, but a lot of PlayStation games that are still stuck on PlayStation consoles, I feel like those games are so good, but nobody really cares to bring them forward. Why is that? They have a really good legacy catalog of games that they just do not do anything with. Nintendo could do, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, this, that, and the third, and people will just be like, but where's this game? But where's that game? PlayStation could end their PS1, PS2 support right now, and nobody would care. And that's unfortunate. PS5, at the end of the day, is another console I feel like you can just pass on. You're not really missing anything. Again, the only thing that you've really missed out on, Ratchet & Clank Returnal and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Is that worth spending $500 on? I don't think so. And a lot of the games coming down the pipeline really are still games that you can play on the PS4. That's really all I got to say about this at the moment. I'm going to open up the chat for anybody that would like to come in and give their either agreeances or disagreements as far as what I had to say about the Switch. Excuse me, not the Switch, but the 9th generation of gaming. So let's see how I can do that. All right, so I am currently in the Weapon Wheel Discord. BG, if you would like to come in and express your grievances with the things I had to say, come on in. I'll keep it open for about 3 more minutes before I get back to it. Or before I end it. I still got stuff to do with my day. BG, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hold on, one sec. Say something.
Yo.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Zobi, I'm going to be in our Discord whenever I'm done with this conversation. So just keep an eye on me. I'll be in the chat, or you can just wait in the chat and then I'll come jump in and we'll discuss what's going on with this current generation of gaming. BG, a staunch PlayStation defender.
Yes, sir. Truth teller.
Don't know about all that, but what would you like to discuss?
I just came here to support you, brother. You doing a live stream. People are in here. I have no fire in my heart to argue against anything you said. Of course, I disagree with most of it, but I have no issue with anything you say. I just disagree, and I'm here to support you, good brother. I disagree with all of y'all about the specifically, because I always got to specify the from 2020 to 2023. Particularly, 2023 was, on the drier side, right? Only like 2 games worth noting. But from 2020 to 2023, yeah, I as I've said, I think that those are the best first 3 years of any PlayStation.
Wait, you
era.
think you think the
yeah, absolutely.
How are you describing
first party wise?
Oh, first party.
Yeah, just first party. It's the best first 3 years. This year, dry. No debate. Absolutely dry. There's nothing there.
And last year?
But last year it was only third party Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man. So they, but I'm saying if you combine 2020, 2021, 2022, that was they came out in November 2020. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just think that those first 3 years, first party wise, they were hitting it was hitting. That's how I feel. And I don't really know how I think people disagree with that because they feel like it's blasphemy to say that because they feel like they're disrespecting the PS2, PS3, and things like that. But when you go back and look at it, when you actually look at the games, like first party wise, that came out for those consoles, I don't really know how people disagree.
Okay, well then let me ask you this, right? Do you feel is keeping those first party games that you're talking about on the PS4 devalues the PS5 experience?
Yes, partially, yeah.
Why do you feel that way?
Because I feel partially because on one hand, of course, if you have it on the previous hardware, then you're definitely, taking away the value of PS5 because that's the only place people would absolutely be able to get it. And because if it's on the previous hardware, you're holding that game back some way or another. We may because sometimes you may not be able to know exactly what's being held back, but you know something's being held back. There's usually something that if this wasn't on PS4, we would be able to do it on PS5 in this game. We just usually never know, but we can guess. Like with Horizon, um, with the first Horizon, they wanted to put flying in there. They were able to get it even though Forbidden West has is on PS4 and PS5, probably because of the PS5, they were able to get it in both. So there's usually something that holds it back. But I say partially on the other hand because even though it's on PS4, you're still getting the best experience on PS5. Like I would never want to play any of these games on a PS4. It's the same thing because I'm on PC, so it's the same thing with me on PC. Like I'll make an upgrade just for 5 to 10 frames, and to me that's worth it. You know what I'm saying? I'll make an upgrade just to get just to like put have the ability to increase one setting to a higher setting without sacrificing anything. So incremental things like that for me just mean a lot to me. Frame whether it's frames, visual fidelity, those things mean a lot to me. So no matter like really how minute it is. So that's why to me it's still having the PS5 for that is still very valuable.
So the only reason you're happy with the PS5 basically is because it offers you a better performance option. Otherwise, you'd probably still be on PS4. Well, with the exception of Final Fantasy, you'd probably still be on PS4.
If it had all the exact same games and there was no difference in performance or anything like that, yeah, then yeah, I wouldn't care. It would be useless. But it has some exclusive games. My doorbell just rang. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Well, people, you heard the man. He's excited for next generation because he essentially got another PS4 Pro. That's one thing I can give, the ninth generation of gaming, just, I guess, its props for. With the exception of the Switch games did start getting back to 60 frames, you know? We did have that more in the sixth generation, that was just something that a lot of developers were doing, even in games that probably didn't even need them, like turn-based games like the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and Mega Man X Command Mission on GameCube and stuff like that. It was still a cool thing to have, but essentially he's coming from the space of a PC gamer, so he's more about performance more than the actual games and giving you a reason to buy these consoles. This is probably the first generation to where we're buying consoles just because the performance is better on them. How is my audio low? Let me see.
Yeah, I'm back. My bad.
Hey, was my audio low when you were listening in the chat?
To me, you sounded fine. I don't know. People saying turn my mic down a little bit. My mic is at the setting it's always been at. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm bad or anything.
Yeah, my mic is at the volume it's always ever been at. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. Like, I'm not the whole the whole games being on PS4 to me doesn't devalue the games as much as it bothers other people. It bothers me because it bothers me because I know there's some potential that was held back. But it doesn't bother me because I feel like, oh, it makes the PS5 less important. That's not really a factor to me as far as like platform goes, you know? That part doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So let me ask you, do you feel as though you've had like a next gen? I know you're one of those types that don't feel like when you get a new console, there's a feeling that comes along with it. I highly disagree with that. Do you feel as though you've had like a next generation experience on these consoles thus far?
Yeah, that term is just so arbitrary to me, but I feel like I've had games that absolutely justify the PS5 and just are amazing experiences. God of War Ragnarok is that's one to me. To me, Demon Souls was amazing. I mean, so yeah, there are games to me that quote unquote whatever the arbitrary meaning of next gen. When people say next gen, I think what they mean is they feel like something that could not be done before. I think that's what people mean by next gen, or like is really pushing the limits and fully utilizing the console. I think that's what people mean.
Yeah,
But I
because
think,
at this
but
point,
I,
we're basically
yeah,
just playing PS4 games better optimized on the PS5.
but I think as we get further and further into the future, we're not gonna see that anymore like that
As far as what, like
because
graphics or
just as far because my thing is like okay the longer we game eventually I just think you naturally have to like run out of things that you can kind of like push. Like what more could they I'm not saying there's nothing, but I don't think there's a ton that they can do in gaming to like jump to the next level and have us feeling like, "Oh, that game looks next gen." I do think there are like the very best studios could probably come up with a few things, game mechanics or something like that, animation, gameplay, but I don't think there's a ton left to do. I really don't think like there's another there might be one other level after this, right? Where you can get to that next level. Like if people felt like from PS3 to PS4 was like, I don't know, Super Saiyan 2, I guess. And then we're waiting to get to Super Saiyan 3. I think there's probably a Super Saiyan 3. But I don't think there's nothing after that. I think it's going to be Super Saiyan 3 forever and there's nothing else to squeeze out of it.
so then the whole point of releasing consoles at this point will just be optimization, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be all frames and just yeah.
you want to know what I think is holding back PlayStation and Xbox is another thing. I feel like you guys are so against innovation in the way that you guys play that it really limits the type of games that PlayStation can play, the way they can alter the controller. Like it doesn't have to be the standard box for PlayStation and Xbox, but like even if you guys have like gyro controls or something like a gyro option on your controllers, you guys are so actively against that it kind of makes PlayStation and Microsoft's back away from certain ideas. Whereas Nintendo is looking to do those type of things. Like I don't think the future of gaming has to be, how many pores we can see in this character's face and the sweat beads and things like that, how much frames it can be. I think moving forward it should be, and what it should have always been is, how can we make this game more immersive? How can we make the player feel more involved with this game? How can we introduce new styles of gameplay to this? I don't think it just has to be box graphics. Same like the PlayStation controller is more or less the same as it's always been since the 90s, with just a couple little adjustments here and there. Adjustments that they themselves really don't even tap into all that much. Like I said, Astrobot is the next gen on the PS5 to me begins and ends with Astrobot. That was a game that let me see what the future of gaming could be like on the PlayStation, but you just never really saw it like that after the fact.
Yeah, I just think I do think there's a ceiling on like the ideas of gaming, like gameplay, story, cuz I think like in the early days of gaming, like there were so many untapped ideas. Now I feel like to come up with something original is super hard because so many people have done so many things. So, and I think like proof of that is, especially in PC gaming, you got these like indie developers coming up with the most random ideas for games, right? Like that squirrel with a gun game. I think that's kind of like a result of, bro, every idea has been explored in gaming. Now we got to make a squirrel with a gun. We got to do this goofy, off-brand,
Oh,
obscure stuff like Goat Simulator and that type of
I
stuff.
feel like.
Like
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, that's because I feel like a lot of the ideas have been taken and reused. I think now it's all about. Now I don't think it's about being original. I think it's just about doing it the best. I think it's about taking ideas of what's already been done and just redoing it, but doing it better than it's been done before. And no, I'm not open to like gyro and different ways of playing that type of stuff. Like I guess the meta of the gaming. No, I just want to play like the best version of whatever they can come up with, I guess.
Yeah, I don't, and that's the thing. I don't feel like all the ideas in gaming have been tapped essentially. I just think that they can't do them anymore. Like the PS1, PS2, like they could do all these cool little quirky innovative ideas without risk of studio closure, but now it's a different time. Like I said, Microsoft is getting away from all those their creative studio titles. They just said they want games that are guaranteed to make them money. PlayStation shut down all their creative studios for games like live service games and their other there's story based games that make them money. So it's not that there's not ideas that are still just left on the table. It's more so that they can't do them anymore. And nobody will, outside of Nintendo, and again, we're not even sure what the future holds for them, nobody is willing to take that risk with games like that. And indie developers, to be honest with you, I feel like that squirrel with the gun game that you mentioned, I don't feel like it's just an idea just to be different. I feel like there's also games that are coming out from that side that are just looking to be like a meme streaming type of game. So you'll
Yeah.
get like these really ridiculous games just because it'll appeal to some suburban streamer with his child fan base and they'll be all hype and crazy about it. But I don't think it's just because we've ran out of ideas that we have to make games with a squirrel and a gun.
Yeah, and by the way, if you wanted to invite Zob into the Discord, you could if you wanted him to just come in here. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm gonna admit that I'm a bit, I guess, I don't know if it's complacent or satisfied. I'm not looking for the brand new necessarily idea or the most innovative thing in gaming. I'm honestly not. I'm be honest with you. I, I'm kind of just looking for somebody to once again make the best of what we've already seen. I'm honestly okay with that. I'm being real with you. Like I don't want the same game over and over again. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I want something really good. As long as it's really good, I really don't care if it's like not original or if it's been done like kind of like 1,000 times before. Um, yeah, I'm not looking for the only thing I'm looking for, like as far as drastic change, is I actually want developers, as far as multiplayer games go, I want developers to go back to the way they used to make multiplayer games. That's the only thing, like as far as like, because I'm against the whole retro and nostalgia thing. I'm anti-retro, anti-nostalgia. But when it comes to multiplayer games, I want them to go back to how things were, like 2 generations ago.
Okay, and lastly, before I start conversating with Zobi, do you feel as you said you're mainly into it for the best of the best? Do you feel like this generation has been giving you the best of the best so far?
Uh,
Like leave platforms,
mhm.
Microsoft, Nintendo, Switch, like just leave all that to the side. I'm just talking about as an entire generation, as a collective. Do you feel like this generation has really given you some software that you can get behind?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's that's not to say that there hasn't been like big fuck ups. There's definitely been that. Um, but some like bro, some games I absolutely, love have come out this generation. Especially last year. Last year was one of the best years in gaming ever, in my opinion. Like that was like, bruh, that yes, last year was just phenomenal to me.
It
Phenomenal as
was a
far as
good
like
it was a
it
good year.
wasn't
I
it
agree.
wasn't yeah, it wasn't just the quantity for me. It was the quality. I really believe the quality was just really there for for those games. So, and I was happy. The I just need PlayStation to get back on track, which I believe they will, because I mean, PlayStation has been in way worse position than this. That's why I'm
Financially
like,
or from a game output standpoint?
I think both. I
Has
think
their
both.
output been worse?
Yeah. Um, I would say their output was just as bad early PS4 and one of those years during the PS3. I forgot what year it was, but I'm talking about it was sandy out there. It was just like, the meme where you see the dust ball roll by. I forgot what year that was during the PS3, but the first like the early years PS4 and one or two of those years, the PS3, it was really bad. So I don't think, and then they were financially worse off too. So I don't think this is nothing that they can't come back from. This is like they've stumbled like from last year, even though that from first party there was only one first party game. This year is a big stumble, but I've seen them in way worse positions. So, and they've always done well towards the end of the generation. I would love for them to keep that consistency throughout the entire generation, and that's why I do think they need some smaller studios that make smaller games, like just two that stay small. But this is nothing that they haven't, that they can't recover from, in my opinion.
All right. Appreciate you coming through, BG. I'm going to go to our next caller, my good brother Zobi70,
All right.
and discuss what he thinks about this current generation. Yo, Zobi, you there?
What's up,
Yeah. Oh man, what's up, Zobi?
dude?
It's been a while, man. How you
Oh,
been?
I know it's been a very long time, man, but it's always good to team up with you, man. It's kind of like the Goku and Vegeta combo, you know?
Yes, sir. Goku come back to save the day. None other than good brother Zobi70.
Yes, yes, yes. Glad you. Everything you said, man, I thought was just spot on. Really intelligent, what you said. Very objective, what you said. I have. I'm not gonna say I disagree with you. I just got a little bit more of anger towards PlayStation. You already know that. Even though I think there are some pluses with that handheld device. Did you get that?
Absolutely not.
No? Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I mean, like, I've always, you and I have always been on the side of like having a PlayStation, like a PlayStation handheld console. Like, we've always
Yeah.
been like Team PSP, Team PS Vita, despite its failure. We've always wanted like a Sony to get back into the handheld side of the game. I just can't get behind a digital only streaming handheld console. I'm sorry, I can't.
I mean, Euro is very successful. That's what I hear. I haven't seen any numbers, but I'm hearing it's selling out everywhere. It's doing gangbusters. This is according to Sony, so I'm not sure if that's true or not. But did you also hear that they're going to make well, this is a rumor. I'm not, but they're talking about making a handheld that'll play PlayStation 4 games.
I did hear that they were trying to make a traditional handheld again. Yes.
Yeah, cool, cool. But salute to BG, man. I even thought his points were pretty good. I usually don't agree with him when it comes to PlayStation, but his feelings towards PlayStation are his feelings. That's his truth. I just don't agree. Those are PlayStation's success. What do you say? That PlayStation was extremely successful. This is the most successful the first party games have been.
Oh, the best first 3 years of a Sony first party of all time, and
All time.
yeah.
Well, okay, and that's what Resogun. What is it?
No, that's let's see, that's Returnal, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, God of War, Yeah, I know Zobia. Horizon and like a couple other games I can't think of.
Yeah, it's a display of games, but I don't know if that equates to success. I'm not even sure if those games did good numbers in comparison to its previous installments. But okay, cool. No, but I just want to say I agree with everything you're saying. I thought that we were going to be getting BG and Zobia in the same room because not that I wanted to challenge anything he was saying. I actually thought he came up with some good objective or came up with his truth.
I
Everything was
mean,
great. Oh, I just want to challenge you as well. Nintendo, you think Nintendo's doing good?
as far as like just what they've accomplished during the Switch generation.
Yes. What to expect for the future? Do you think Nintendo's in a good place right now?
Oh, I said anything could happen with Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna say that they're guaranteed to come out here swinging and just show everybody what's up. Anything could happen nowadays, especially with Iwata gone. So I don't know.
Yeah, man. I do think with Iwata gone, think that things are not going to be looking too good. We don't really know what the specs are as a fact when it comes to Nintendo Switch, but what we're hearing is that it's just going to be just an upgrade of the current console that we have. And I always wanted to ask you this question. It's just like, is that going to be good enough for the Nintendo Switch? Like, is that what you want? Like, do you want to play into the online hype, right? Like, I really want to know how you feel genuinely.
Yeah.
Do you think next the Nintendo Switch console should just be like the PlayStation 4 and Xbox? Currently, two failing consoles. The PlayStation is failing right now. Don't get it twisted. They just came out with numbers reports, and they're saying that they were down 30-something% to what they estimated what was going to be around this fiscal year. Am I right or am I wrong?
I believe I heard something like that. Square Enix as well.
Yeah. So even outselling the Xbox, we have PlayStation fans, get this out of your skulls right now. Stop thinking that you have to beat Xbox to be successful. No, you have to beat PlayStation to be successful. That's number one. And you have to also beat Nintendo Switch. But anyway, Brenda, I need to know your honest answer. Do you really believe that Nintendo Switch 2, it really needs to be 4K? Does it need to have 10,000 gigaframes per second? Just giving it as an upgrade to Nintendo Switch 2? Or do you want something completely new? Like if Iwata was alive, he would have continued the Nintendo Switch brand because he's done it with the DS, but he would also give us the next installment of what the next generation of gaming is supposed to be, that Xbox and the PlayStation would steal from. Blanchard, please be honest. Do you think that Nintendo Switch 2, is that what you want? Is it just an upgrade of the current Nintendo Switch and just give us better frames per second so that we can dance all over the guys online, even though they're going to ignore us? Go ahead.
Well, my thing has never been with Nintendo. Like, power has never really been my thing for Nintendo. Like, even going into the Nintendo Switch, when people were talking about, why can't Nintendo just make the GameCube too? I'm tired of all these gimmicks. I'm like, no, man, I like when Nintendo really gets in their creative bag. So I don't want the Nintendo Switch to just be a Nintendo Switch Pro. I want Nintendo to come out here and show me new, different ways I can use their console. Show me how this is a much different console from the Nintendo Switch as opposed to just, being 1080p as opposed to 720. I'm all about the new controls, the new ways of play, showing me software that, takes advantage of all that and everything. So
Thank you so much, Blanchard. I always wanted to ask you that question because I didn't know where you sat with there. Because I know you're intermingled with all types of communities and things of that such, and I know Nintendo fans. I don't know if they feel like they want to be part of this scrap or this battle when it pertains to the Xbox and the PlayStation. I feel like Nintendo has their own lane and they're dominating that lane. And if they want to bring Nintendo into the lane of Xbox and PlayStation, we're dominating that lane. But I just feel like, yes. The deaf, dumb, and the blind is going to love a Nintendo Switch 2 where you can have backwards compatibility. That's fine. Where you can have updated graphics. That's fine. But I think with BG, where I agree with him and disagree to a certain degree, where he said that this is what he sees in gaming right now is as far as we're going to go.
Yeah, I told him I disagree with that.
Well, when it pertains to I think he's talking. I don't want to put words in his mouth. Maybe in the aspects of graphics.
Yeah, he's talking about like performance and graphics. Like he feels like next generation will just be to a point essentially to where we've reached realism and there's not much further we can go with that.
I do believe without the mind and the wisdom and the creativity of Iwata not here, I have to kind of somewhat agree. I kind of go to kind of say, who's going to take gaming to the next level? Is it going to be Miyamoto? Is it going to be the Zelda creator? What's his name?
Aonuma.
Yeah, is it going to, like, who's going to take that to the next level? Consoles and gaming, because it's definitely not going to be PlayStation, and it's definitely not going to be Xbox.
Yeah.
Especially not Xbox.
Yeah, I was about to say they're on time right now. Like they really don't have much. Like they probably got a generation left at most, but it's
borrowed time. And talking about Sarabon and the Indian guy that works at Xbox, they're talking about AI generated games. You know what I mean?
Square Enix and a couple other developers were talking about that too.
Square Enix, EA, they're talking about what the hell? And people were kind of Xbox guys alone. Hopefully PlayStation doesn't dive into that realm, even though I think they will. Will there be a successful AI generated game? Yes. Will the gaming media and everybody latch onto that to say, see, this is the reason why we need to fire employees. This is the reason why we need to cut costs. It's because AI is going to take over. And I think if you don't have that human, if you don't have that soul, that spirit, that mind, the wisdom, that's something that AI could never do.
Yeah,
and
the
I
human
think
element.
yes, that human element, the experience of eating an ice cream cone, the experience of having sexual intercourse, you got to have that experience that the AI can't have. And I do think that was going to crumble and crash Microsoft. They think that they're going to cut costs and cut employees and cut this and cut that so they can make big bunk off of making cheaper games with AI, but it's just not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm sorry. You need that soul. That's the reason why Nintendo, I believe, is probably the only one with soul right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you want to know what's crazy? Like Iwata, like going into like the PS3 360, Iwata told us all this stuff back in 2005. He was like,
yes.
You guys aren't gonna like what happens with game. He said this at like a GDC conference or something. He was like, you guys aren't gonna like what happens with gaming. It's gonna get to a point where a lot of your games start looking the same. It's gonna get to a point where a lot of your soundtracks sound the same. Like I could show you a soundtrack from a game right now and you will have no idea where that game, like where that song belongs to. It's gonna get to a point to where development budgets just start to go super high to the point to where you can't make games just because you had an interesting idea anymore. It's going to get to a point where you need guaranteed money. And his thing going into the Wii, like his whole slogan with the Wii was a console where the big where the big ideas can overcome the big budgets. But everybody told him, no, we don't want to be a part of that console, even though it did sell like 100 million. A lot of developers at that time told them, no, we don't want to be a part of that. We want to jump into the HD age. We want to push the graphics. We want to show the high fidelity. They completely did everything he said that gaming didn't need to be, and now look at where gaming is currently.
Yes, everything that Iwata has ever done with every console, they told him, oh, that's stupid. That's dumb. I remember when before the Wii came out, I'm older than you. I remember before the Wii came out and I was hanging out with this guy and he was bashing the Wii because it was going to be using the move mode and he was bashing the name. Wii! You know what I mean? He was bashing the name.
Yeah.
But now with the Wii, it's we're not using the move mode, but those implementations are still being implemented to this day with the Wii and with the Wii U and
even in the PlayStation controller, like a lot of what the Wii U gamepad had is in that DualSense controller, just in a more compacted way.
It's just the guy was so advanced. He was so ahead of its time. Like you said, you read statements. I thought I was deep because I thought I came it up with. He was the one that came up with the statement back in 2001. He was saying we can't just keep making PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to get stagnant like we are seeing today. At the time, we couldn't see it. We just thought, Grand Theft Auto, baby, NBA basketball, right? But now we're stuck with the PlayStation and the Xbox, especially with I think with both. They're both stuck in this place. And like you said, without Square Enix now for PlayStation, that's the reason everybody was going off about the PlayStation and Square Enix, because the PlayStation guys were like, look at over here, man. Nintendo has made more exclusives. Yeah, but now that you're getting rid of Square Enix, now that you don't have that element there, you have nothing over there at PlayStation, man. You got nothing. But yeah, going back to Iwata and his statement, making council after council, I'm afraid with the Nintendo Switch 2. I know a lot of people are excited that they want a Nintendo Switch 2 and they want to have the upgraded graphics and they want 60 frames per second for a handheld console, even though you can already get those things. You can get those things. More 60 frame per second games are on your Nintendo Switch than they're on your PlayStation 5s. But anyway, but still, I think that is the thing's going to get scary. Hopefully Nintendo is currently working on another console where it's going to be pushing things forward. But I just don't think anybody with that mind state and that bravery. Can you imagine, Blanju, being ahead of your time, saying things on podcasts, say like the Weapon Wheel podcast that's so profound that people cannot understand at the time. Imagine how brave you are, Blanju. I've heard you say so many things that are so brave that have come true to this day. That's the same thing Iwata has gone through. Not many people are brave enough to do those things right now. That's the reason why gaming is stagnant as it is right now, man. I have to agree with BG to a degree. I don't see it getting any better, only because of who we have available. We got people like Sarah Bond that is running games.
Yeah, we talked about this in the Discord. When we saw Sarah Bond, we kind of figured like it was officially over. We don't want to get too deep into like what we were talking about, but yeah, like anybody that knows corporate America knows what that means.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
But like I said, man, I love everything you're saying, and thank you so much for answering my question, and thanks for having me on your platform, man. Thank you so much, Blanji.
Yeah, and Zobi, you know me, like I'm not this graphics guy. Like I was getting at Digital Foundry because they were zooming in on Cloud's Buster Sword. And we're mad that, like, you know, the materia in this sword was kind of fuzzy. I'm like, what are we doing? You said what?
That did happen. No, you're right. That did happen. I forgot.
Yeah, I'm playing my PS2, my Game Boy Advance right now. I'm playing that more than my current consoles. I just beat Xenosaga 1, about to start up Wild Arms. Like, trust me, I'm not one of these performance snobs that you see running around here saying, dude, I can't play this game, it just hurts my eyes, man, it dropped from 60 frames to 52 in 2 seconds. I'm just like, no, to me that's not what gaming is. And I feel like we kind of lost the point over these past couple years.
Within the gaming community, those things are big, but in reality, Animal Crossing, Minecraft, Stardew Valley are the highest selling games. So, you know, these guys have to really, you know, I don't know when they started gaming, probably with the PlayStation 2, but gaming has never been about that, man. The highest selling console is Nintendo Switch. It's not about the graphics, man. It's strictly about the gameplay. I hope you guys can readjust your brain to getting more into the art form of gaming, except for just, you know, console warring and graphics, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I said that like a couple months. Like I had a Twitter space about it a couple months. Please don't ask me why I was doing a Twitter space, but I had a Twitter space about it a couple years, like a year or so ago. I was saying gaming doesn't only need a reset, but I feel like gamers' mindsets need a reset as well. And I feel like the PS3 and 360 did a lot of damage to the mentality of gamers and like what they expect from gaming.
Yeah, that's true, because nobody expected the 360 to be that successful, and PlayStation really suffered in that era. So that really screwed up a lot of people's mind. That's why people are so hyped up that the PlayStation outsold Xbox 5-1, but PlayStation is still losing money. You know, gangbusters. They're doing horrible. Hermen Hulst, you're good about this guy in there or what?
I haven't, to be honest with you, I don't know too much about Hermen. Like Jim Ryan, I studied him for like years before he became president, so I already knew he was going to be a bad CEO for PlayStation. But Hermen Hulst, all I really know about the guy is that one of the worst things he's done is he canceled. He's the one that killed off Japan Studio, according to David Jaffe, the creator of the classic God of War series.
Hold on a second. Now he was the one.
Yeah. We're getting him. You're done.
That's it. No, that's it. That's
He canceled that, and he's also the I want to say he's the founder of Killzone and Horizon. So take with that
How
what you will. And then they got another
would you?
like Japanese guy that handles the finances or something, I believe. So there's 2 presidents of PlayStation now.
How awesome would Japan studios be right now for PlayStation, man?
Dude,
While
just
because while they were sitting around and waiting for God of War and some other junk or whatever, another Spider-Man game. I know that, right? Another Spider-Man game. You could have been getting access to the Square Enix games, not your Final Fantasies, but not only that, you would have been getting access to smaller budget Japanese titles that have been bringing phenomenal gameplay. Games like what's the girl floating around?
Gravity Rush.
Gravity Rush, your Loco Rocos, Pop Up, you know what I mean? Those type of
Petapod. Yeah, I know.
Demon Souls that you guys love so much, man. Those came from those studios. They were creating these games that didn't really have all the graphical aspects to them all, but it had the gameplay access capabilities that people love till this day.
And I'm glad you brought that up. So sorry to interrupt.
Please
but I'm glad you brought that up because Sean Layden and like the other PlayStation CEOs of the past, they understood that those games were important. I remember like Sean Layden, the guy that was running PlayStation during the PS4 generation, he was telling them that even though like Vib Ribbon wasn't like this multi-million seller, the game was still very important to have on the PlayStation console. So and I think it was Yoshida, he was like, yeah, we could have games like Everybody's Golf, Hot Shots Golf. We could have Gravity Rush. We could have Concrete Genie, Parappa the Rapper, Omega Boost, and whatever. We can have those smaller titles because our bigger projects like the Horizons, The Last of Us, God of War, those will cover the cost of those games. And having output with quality games like that is very important for PlayStation. Jim Ryan was completely anti everything those 2 stood for.
Yes. Did you see the statistical numbers? It said that people are still on their PlayStation 4s.
Mm-hmm. Like about half of the audience is still down there. Yeah. I can't blame them, but yeah.
The PlayStation fans on social media do not understand that the accumulation of sales when it comes to the consoles, because I know the console sales are so important to you guys, but the reason these console sales are not growing because you don't have these Japanese games. You don't have. We were the ones that we if they made exclusive Japanese games, Japan Studios games that you could only get on the PlayStation 5, I guarantee you, wow, the sales will go up gangbusters. But a lot of us feel like we've been alienated, and that's the reason we're not coming out. I still didn't buy a PlayStation 5, but I would gladly buy a PlayStation 5 if you can only buy Wiggle Waggle. I'm just using that name as it was, but it had all these great Japanese things that I love. A lot of us will make that jump over, man. I'm telling you, that's the reason why they haven't made the jump. Nobody wants to play Spider-Man. Only, I don't want to go talking bad about people, but only a few amount of people want to play Horizon, Spider-Man, and The Last of Us. It's very small. That audience does not support, really. It doesn't support the games. It doesn't support the consoles. It was us. It was me. It was Blandrew. It was all types of people who were considered weird and losers and dweebs and dorks. We supported those consoles because of Japan Studios. The PSP, the PlayStation 4, the PS3, White Knight Chronicles was the reason I bought PlayStation.
I bought a PS3 for Naruto Storm, but still, like the anime nerds, the anime weirdos, like that's why we bought a PS3 was for Naruto Storm and all these other things that were coming out.
Oh, that was an exclusive game. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And it was a lot better too. And for the PlayStation 1, when we, what brung us in was, of course, the Maddens, well, not me, but the Maddens and stuff like that. But a lot of us got it because we saw those kooky and quirky games like, the JRPGs and games like Parappa the Rapper, man. That Parappa the Rapper was lit.
Let's play a game of Parappa right now, Zobi. You go first and I'll repeat.
It's the 2-player mode of Parappa. When you beat the game, you can play as an opposite Parappa, and you can rhyme and rip and rhyme, and I rhyme and I rip together, man.
This is the way that Parappa spits. Yeah.
That's why the PlayStation is not successful. You cannot compete with the loser. That is, and I'm sorry, you can't compete with losers. You got to compete with yourself. That's number one. and whoever the best is, man. And that's
Yeah,
Nintendo
I
Switch.
don't know why selling 5 times more than Xbox is an accomplishment. Like selling
Yeah,
5 times more than a dead person is not really something to
it
aspire to
means
be.
absolutely it means nothing. When I saw that statistic, I thought it was a nothing burger to me. Show me when you're out selling the Nintendo Switch, a console that's 10 years old. Oh, Blanchard, please, Blanchard, please, can we settle this right now? Xbox fans, stop bringing up the Wii U. That was 10 years ago. Blanchard, they keep bringing up the Wii U. Like it's like that's the only time they notice Nintendo was when they're failing. If
No,
that was even
that is the time people typically only like we heard about Nintendo from the media and gamers way more in the Wii U era than we did now and in the Wii era. Like Nintendo was just like an afterthought, like currently and during the Wii. But when they were failing during that Wii U, we couldn't stop hearing about them.
Stop hearing, and they still talk about the Wii U to this day, man. Man, the Wii U was bro. That was almost 10 years ago. Talk about Wii U's big brother. They don't want to talk about Wii U's big brother, the Nintendo Switch. And the Wii U wasn't a failure. Okay, if you guys want to count your little numbers and stuff like that, but when any aspects of the games, you guys are begging and crying for Xenoblade Chronicles X, man. Every day I keep seeing a post for that
They
game.
told me during that time was just the worst thing ever, and they betrayed their fans. Yeah.
They said it was trash. The frame rates were bad. That's a pretty game. That's probably one of the prettiest games. I'm not even talking as a Nintendo supporter. That game's beautiful, man. They got different scales of monsters and stuff running around while you're walking on the map. They got about 500 monsters on the field at one time. I haven't seen that on a modern Xenoblade game.
No, it's arguably Nintendo's best looking game even to this day.
Yeah. It's not fair, man. It's not fair, dude.
Yeah, but like going back to what you said about PlayStation, like you're right, because like those niches, okay, you know, a rhythm game may not be the biggest thing in the world. Okay, a platformer may not be the biggest thing in the world. A Legend of Dragoon, a Wild Arms, whatever, may not be the biggest thing in the world. But when you get a collective of those niches together, all of a sudden you've got like a really big audience coming to your platform. And I feel like we kind of lost that over the years.
You got a monster audience coming to your platform. That's the reason why the PSP was successful, even though the DS kicked its butt, but it was still successful. The PlayStation 1, your PlayStation 2 as well. It was just so many different niche games that was able to hit everybody. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch is just hitting everybody. Oh, you want JRPGs? Here you go. You want the shooters? You want the Assassin's Creeds? You want this? Boom, 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 boom. Everybody's getting hit. You might not be getting hit on the like you said, the seeing the freckles and the front,
yeah. But look at what's happening to those studios that's chasing that.
Yeah. And to be honest, I'm still not seeing that on your modern games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, you're right, Blanju. Having smaller studios doing smaller work, but having big outcome with gameplay and with fans is extremely important. That's what the PlayStation 4 was successful too. Remember when the PlayStation 4 came out and it was focused on Japanese games, and then towards the end they started focusing on LBGT games and stuff like that?
I do. I mean, because I remember like during that time, like this is still when Japanese games were, we were coming off the PS3 where people typically didn't care about the Yakuzas and the Ni no Kunis and stuff like that. But we had games like Dragon Quest Heroes and Disgaea, and I think Trails of Cold Steel came out for the PS3, and Yakuza 5 was finally coming around, and like it was still very Japanese heavy in those first couple years. Like it was Japanese heavy and indie heavy, and people thought that was just the worst thing ever on the PlayStation at the time.
Yes, Blanju. I think I'm not saying we should bring back Japan studios, because if we say that, Blanju, if we say that, they go, no, they can't do that, man, because it makes them look bad, right? But what I should say is, please go to Japan, Sony, right now. Now that you have a Japan, whatever he is, Japanese president, please go to these colleges, because Nintendo's doing that right now. Nintendo, if you didn't see the reports, they are waiting. Yeah, go ahead, Blanchard.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, yeah. They're waiting outside of the colleges, waiting for these kids to graduate. They're pretending to be dressed up as students too, and they're watching the kids and seeing who was the most the most outstanding of the class, right? And they're waiting for them to walk right out of the doors, and they're bringing them directly into that new building that they're building over there at Nintendo for Monolith Soft. They're expanding the Monolith section. You know what I mean? I'm not lying. They're doing that right now.
No, because
that's what's. Yeah, go ahead.
No, because that's how they got the Splatoon team. Like, that wasn't veterans that came up with that game. They said they wanted to start investing into like the younger minds and see what's on their minds and see if they can, translate that into a game that works for Nintendo. Enter Splatoon, and now it's one of Nintendo's marquee titles.
Yes. And I think PlayStation should do the same thing. I'm not saying bring back Japan Studios, because I know you guys are going to get frustrated because you were stuck on it being the main reason why PlayStation was failing, right? Yeah. But I think they should create a whole new Sony Japan, Japan Sony, or Japan PlayStation or something, and get those guys in there and start making some smaller IPs. And you can really, if you really want to beat Microsoft, because I know that means so much to the PlayStation fans, if you really want to destroy them, do that. Do that.
Yeah. And one last thing, I think that PlayStation, because like if we bring up Japan Studios and we'll be like, man, Sony should invest in a JRPG or something. Like Sony should invest in a fighting game. It makes no sense to me that, Sony owns Evo, but they don't even have their own premier fighting game. Like if we say these things and then they'll try to use, old data on us to try to prove us wrong. Well, they try it with PlayStation All-Stars, man. I mean, what more do you want from them? Dude, they already tried that back on the PS3 with White Knight Chronicles. It didn't work. I think they just need to go back to the drawing board because they do have successful titles on their platform. They do have a successful Street Fighter, Tekken, Dragon Ball Z Fighters. They have successful RPGs like Persona, Nier, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, I guess, and all these other games. Why are those games able to be successes as opposed to the games that we're making? I think they really need to study that and come up with an answer to that, because it's not like the audience isn't there as opposed to Xbox making games like, Hi-Fi Rush, when the audience typically doesn't care for that, and you can't point to other examples of games like that being a success to the platform. I think they just need to really study what it is about all the other games that are successes on their platform and try to learn from those to make a better game that appeals to that platform.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%, man. Microsoft has to focus on their core. PlayStation has to focus on their core. You were saying PlayStation Battle Royale. Of course, that was going to fail. That's
Nintendo's like you're making a Nintendo game for the PlayStation audience. That was never going to work. A bad one at that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some PlayStation fans. They're gonna get down there and say, "I actually enjoyed PlayStation," but
I get nasty with Kratos, dude.
It's just like copying what Nintendo and Iwata's vision is it's not going to work, but it'll work for Nintendo. You know what I mean? But thank you, Blanchard, for having me on, man.
Of course.
Great. I hope you start doing more of these, man. This is a beautiful thing that you're doing, man. Really good.
I appreciate it. I don't really do all the live streaming and stuff like that. I typically like to write down all my thoughts and then translate it to an actual video, but I did enjoy this. This was fun.
It's spitting off the top of the dome, man. So, I would look into both.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, brother. Be safe, man.
All right, you too, man. Take care.
Right.
Oof. We've been at this for a while now, chat. If we got any last remaining questions, I'll take them. If not, we will head out and call it a stream. I think it was a pretty good stream, all things considered, Let me read the chat, see if we got some comments going on. Great show. I appreciate that, Nico. What's up, Salazar Naruto 52? Will this be uploaded? Like I said, I'm kind of on my Nintendo wave right now. It'll be like a limited viewing. So I might keep it unlisted or something for a couple weeks and then maybe just get rid of it. I typically don't keep streams on my channel. Like I've done E3s and Nintendo Direct reactions, and then I just kind of wipe them after a while. When's the next IO Nintendo episode? Shout out to Salazar Naruto again. To be honest with you, it'll probably be, I'm going to be out of town. Realistically, it'd probably be with the Switch 2. There really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about with Nintendo for like the past couple months anyway, so we would kind of just be forcing episodes. So unless you guys really just wanted us to talk about rumors for weeks on end, there's really not a whole lot for us to talk about. Zobi's LGBT point is 100% fact. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to give it like 2 more minutes, then I'm going to head out. Oh, boy. Ugh. But yeah, once this generation is finally officially done, I'll probably have, if you guys are interested in it, I could make like a whole traditional video just breaking down, you know, the PS5, the Xbox Series X, and the Nintendo Switch. There's a YouTuber called Adam Koralik that does like these end of generation reviews for on his channel that I think are really cool. So if you guys are interested, I might do something like that. You think Microsoft will close Obsidian or Double Fine first? Shout out to Game Inspection. You said Double Fine would be the first to go. Double Fine was already a studio to where the only reason Psychonauts was able to be made was because, like, Psychonauts was a game that had to be made via Kickstarter. It's not a game that was typically all that successful on the minds of gamers. They demanded a new Psychonauts game. There was very little appeal for that game. And again, like, if they do make it an Xbox exclusive and they just completely leave out the PlayStation and Nintendo, that game's doomed. It's not a game that caters to what the Xbox fan is into. When have we ever seen Xbox fans like parade around platformers? That's why, like, even the some people from the Banjo-Kazooie team back in the day said, yeah, bringing back Banjo would be rough because we don't know how much of an audience there is for that game in 2020 something when they said that. Not only that, the audience would be on Nintendo. So if that game is to be an exclusive, that game's really not going to do much. But yeah, this has been a good stream. I'm not seeing too much in the chat left for me to respond to, so I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.